Welcome to Watch Symposium. I'm Austin, and this is a custom video for Dr. R. Dr. R is a real friend of the channel. Thank you, Dr. R, for all of your emails, the correspondence that we go back and forth with, and this custom video request. All right, he writes, thanks for turning me on to the Rolex PhD channel. Recently saw one of his videos, Rolex robbery, one of my favorite videos of his. Link in the description to that video, check it out. So we're talking about Rolex robberies and sort of the danger of wearing a Rolex watch in this video. Okay, Dr. R continues, as I value your perspective, though you are more insulated in Japan, would you do a paid video on crime in the future of the luxury watch market? I included a copy of my comment to the Rolex PhD's video, and here it is. Very sobering story and well told. I often think as criminals become more and more aware of luxury models, if this is what is going to ultimately bring down the luxury watch market. Why set yourself up as a target to be robbed or far worse, physically maimed? Granted, New York is not quite as bad as London yet, but crime is escalating daily. Going out yesterday to the mall with my wife, I was going to put on my new Daytona. Thought about the walk from the mall back to the parking lot and ended up wearing my Casio G-Shock. So what is the point of owning all these mechanical pieces of art if you cannot comfortably wear and enjoy them outside your home? Sadly, more and more, I'm thinking of selling my collection. Wow. All right. So the role of the watch on your wrist, okay? Look, it's changing, and in the past, these used to be tools. In the 1960s and 70s, this is what you would wear, period, okay? It was just the best job to keep the time, tell the time. An oyster was where you would go if you were an adventurer, an explorer, or you just wanted a really good, highly accurate watch. Of course, there are better options in terms of timekeeping and even, the ruggedness. Casio G-Shocks, for example. And so the role of the watches have changed, and there's still people that wear their Rolex watches as two watches, but the value rise has really brought another factor and dynamic into the equation. And it's not good for the enthusiast, the people that just love the brand, love the watch. They don't want to think about value retention. They just want a cool, awesome watch with a great history. It's kind of unfortunate. It's a double-edged sword, as I put it in, I think, my most recent live video, the one with Matt Stevens, all right? So things are changing, and I think more and more people are going to start looking at these watches, and they already have, as assets. And they're really good assets in the sense that they keep their value, they hold their value, they go up. I mean, they're almost better than the dollar, okay? They just don't really move with fluctuations. Think about the recent, well, it was a dip in the market for sure with the pandemic. Rolexes were not affected by that. Now, some people say it's still a bubble and that a real long-lasting economic jolt could really see the value in those watches tumble. I question that, all right? I question that. Look, there are always going to be people that, look, it's going to get bad, and if it does get bad, they just don't have the choice, okay? They have to let the Rolexes go. But if anybody has the choice, even in those dire situations, I think they're going to hold on to the Rolex, because even if prices do dip, you can guarantee they're going to go back up again. So more and more people are looking at watches almost as investments. I point to Matt Stevens. He wants to get a BLNR. Does he want to wear it? No, he wants to just stick it unused into a safe. That mindset does exist, and so I have to point that out. Also, we have to talk about crime, and it really depends on the country, and Dr. R points out that I live in Japan. It's an insulated country. Absolutely. This is one of the safest places. No, it is the safest place to wear a Rolex in the world. And really, how safe a country is depends on the law enforcement, perhaps the laws, and I think the biggest thing, how much those laws are applied and how much effort law enforcement can put into solving the crimes, and whether they choose to or whether they just have bigger fish to fry and they really can't worry about somebody getting their watch stolen in the street. Now, Japan is one of those countries, like I said, is incredibly safe, and really the only way you could get your watch stolen here and the perpetrator get away with it is really if you passed out in the street and somebody were to take it off your wrist, disappear, you woke up, it was gone, and you didn't have a description or a time when it vanished. That's when you would lose your watch. But aside from that, I mean, if somebody takes your watch and you've got a description, they're going to find the guy in Japan. I mean, sometimes women at night will get their asses grabbed in the street. They track that guy down, all right? And they do so by having a description, having a time when it happened, and they will pull all of the CCTV footage from all of the stores around. They'll track that guy from around that area all the way back to where he lives. They can do it. There are cameras everywhere, whether they're in the street or on the outside of buildings or inside of buildings kind of facing out through windows. They will find you, all right? So it makes for a safe wearing situation here. You could go anywhere in Japan any time of night. You will be fine. Just remain conscious, okay? But it really depends on the country, because places like London, even though they've got CCTV footage of the people perhaps, they can't or won't do what they need to do to solve the crime. And maybe they just don't have the manpower. So I don't want to say it's their fault. They don't put enough effort in. Maybe that's the case, but maybe, again, they just have other crimes they need to concentrate on. All right. Now, it also depends on what kind of watch you have. And back in the day, it's like the gold watches were what drew people's attention. And that, again, depends on the country. That's still true to an extent. But these days, people who know Rolex know that it's the steel sports Rolexes that are more valuable than anything. And so I bring up a guy that I know who travels. He wears a GMT Master 2 pre-ceramic. He went to the Philippines. He's worn that watch in the Philippines months, everywhere. He just wears it like you would wear a Casio. According to him, they don't even see the watch. It's not gold, all right? They're looking for gold, two-tone precious metal pieces, right? They see that color, then they look a little bit closer. Now, he was traveling in Mexico. He said he noticed guys checking out his watch, all right? So people in Mexico, apparently, they've gotten the memo. These watches, these steel professional watches are hot, and they know about it. But in the Philippines, the average Filipino probably doesn't understand this price rise of the professional steel watches. Again, some cultures are really interested in gold, all right? Gold is sort of the color of money, and steel, again, they haven't put two and two together perhaps. And I think many people around the world haven't put two and two together. There are people walking around that they just don't realize that if they go to Rolex and were to find a sub, a green Cermet, they could flip it for thousands of dollars. They don't know that, all right? It's just not common knowledge. It is with us. I mean, we breathe this stuff, but for the average person, they have no idea. And so as word spreads and as people realize that these are as hot as they are, it's going to make them even more difficult and dangerous to wear. Dr. R brings up a really interesting question. Is this ultimately going to be what brings down the luxury watch market? Some people say that about fake watches as well. As the fakes get better, people aren't going to want the real thing. I think that's totally wrong. People will want the real thing even more. It's almost like the fact that the fakers are making these watches just goes to how valuable and special and desirable the real thing is. Now, as far as this bringing down, and I'm talking about the crime of having your watch taken off you, is that going to affect the luxury market? Well, it's going to affect the wearability, of course. Is it going to affect the market as in the buying and selling? Absolutely not. Because, again, many people are buying these because of the value and the value retention and the investment potential. And I know there are better investments in the world, okay? But if you like watches and you want to hold your investment in your hand as a beautiful piece of functional art, there's nothing better than a Rolex watch. And so there will always be a market for these watches, even if it becomes deadly to go outside with them. That's a sad scenario. But people will buy them, people will have them, they'll wear them inside their home, all right? People will always want these watches. I don't think it's going to affect the value of these watches. In fact, I think it's probably just going to make them more desirable in everybody's eyes, especially if you can get one for retail. All right, I'll leave with this. Dr. R asked himself if he wouldn't be better off just selling his watches. Well, you love these watches, all right? And even if you can't use them as much as you want, you have to be a little bit more careful. There's a pleasure to owning Rolex watches that you know better than anybody. You've got a great collection. And even if you have to be a little bit more careful, use them sparingly, not use them in certain situations, it's okay. There's still a lot of pleasure to be had. And you're looking at a former recovering hoarder. And let me say that there is a lot of pleasure in just having these watches and taking them out and looking at them and appreciating the beauty in them, even if it means not using them as much as you want or at all, all right? There are many angles to appreciating a watch, and it's not limited to just wearing it. And you know that better than anybody, Dr. R. So be careful with your watches. Use them in certain situations. And if you think the watch is going to cause you stress, just don't wear it. That's what G-Shocks are for. But there are plenty of places where you can wear your watches, enjoy your watches, and I know that's what you're going to continue to do. Dr. R, thank you for the custom video request. Thank you for your viewership. You're a real friend of the channel. Guys, let Dr. R know what you think. Let me know what you think. The wearability of Rolex watches has certainly been affected negatively, in my opinion, but it comes with some benefits. And that's desirability, the appreciation of having a really special piece that other people want. And that allows you to appreciate it a little bit more. And of course, the value retention and the rise in prices that come with that. So take care. Thanks for watching. See you next time.